Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
We got to stay on the field and move the ball for us to have a chance. We can't turn it over. We can't put our defense in bad situations. It's going to be a fun game. We definitely have to play team ball.
He's making good decisions and doing things right. And, we just got to try to make it tough on him as a defense, and start to front in the trenches, just making his job as hard as possible and, just bring energy.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Friday night, we wrap up the week for you here from downtown Columbia, the capital city, where it's a very pleasant 83 degrees this afternoon. Love it. I'm sorry. I love it. I'm glad we had winter already. Didn't miss you. Glad spring is back already. Glad to have you. Baseball season starts tomorrow. Major league teams report pitchers and catchers. That's what it feels like out there. It's time to tee it up. Let's get after it. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, Brian Leonard here on this Friday night, where it's a day in which we've got some important news that has come out, and we've got a lot of football to talk about. Mm-hmm. High school football playoffs crank up tonight. David Shelton will join us here in a few minutes to preview that. Had one game last night, Northwestern blowing out Lawrence. Racing at Texas, 3 races to go in the season. Qualifying begins at 6:15. Top speed in practice, just under 200 miles an hour by Ryan Blaney. Keeping an eye on that. The full Monty on NASCAR coming your way tonight. Benedict football coach Mike White. Quietly, the Benedict Tigers are having an outstanding season across town from us. We'll talk with him about his Division II team. They wrap up their season, at least the regular season, tomorrow.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So let's get to the big news. Couple of pieces of big news. First of all, the sad news. This was startling news, came out late this afternoon from USC. Jerry Myers is stepping down. They're calling it an indefinite medical leave of absence from USC. Will not be returning to his position as assistant baseball coach and pitching coach. And if and when he's able to return, he could be placed in another position in the athletics department. A search for a new pitching coach for the baseball team will begin immediately.
I hate to attribute any kind of praise without trying to detract from others, but you could make an argument that that's a guy who's basically one of the main responsible guys as part of the national championship run, the prestige of this program. 16 seasons total there, but 2 different stints, especially after that time in between at Old Dominion. Just a remarkable run. Feel terrible for him that it has to happen this way.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that some of the pitchers that South Carolina has brought in that people didn't think were going to pitch, he molded them into starters.
Yeah, listen, nobody has anything negative to say about Jerry Myers, both as a person and for his work at USC. We wish him the best. Mm-hmm. He's been a constant and regular visitor to this program over the years, sharing insight with us and always so courteous, even when things don't go well. Look, I mean, sometimes pitchers just don't get it done. And he's always been great with us. We wish him the very best. Hope that whatever it is he's dealing with is taken care of quickly and he can get back to work at South Carolina in some form or fashion very quickly. Mm-hmm. USC will have a very special visitor Sunday at the basketball game with Virginia Tech. We got it confirmed this afternoon that Zion Williamson will be, this is confirmed by his mother. He plans to be in Columbia for an unofficial visit. This will be his second unofficial visit with the Gamecocks. Of course, he's taken some official visits. We know Duke, in Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky. Those have been his officials. And, of course, Clemson has been in there as well, been there unofficially. The early signing period begins Wednesday. Now, we don't know if he's going to sign early. He has not declared that he will do that. But, from a South Carolina standpoint for the Gamecocks, this is a big opportunity for them once again to showcase their basketball team and their arena, which, by the way, my first time in the arena was the other night since they put the new scoreboard in and the new ribbons.
Very nice.
Very, very nice. Mm-hmm. Nicely done. Looks great. Really adds a little more energy to the place, and the basketball team can certainly feed off that, and so can the crowd.
Is there any particular strategy behind the fact that he has used unofficials with the two locals and used his officials with the Blue Bloods?
Well, I think that he's been to South Carolina and Clemson so much, and he knows them extremely well, and he had in-home visits with both staffs, and he just didn't feel the need, and he wanted to take officials to those two, and he wanted to spend those with schools farther away that would pay for the trips,
right?
And he could go in depth and inside those programs that he's just not as close to physically as he is with USC and Clemson.
Gotcha.
And I think probably his schedule is pushed up because many people think he's one and done, and he wants to see if he can really jump in there and fit into a system that will show he's able to play at the next level. And that's a tough chore right there.
I don't think anybody outside of his family knows where he's going. I mean, they've done.
I don't even know if he knows where he's
job.
going.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
Why
would you make the visit if you were unsure?
Yeah, it could be any of the six. Be quite honest with you, it could be any of the six, and it all depends on whether he wants to step into a place where he knows he's going to. Here's the thing: if you know you're going to be a one and done guy, you got 4 places there that you know you're going to be in the NCAA tournament for that 1 year. You can't say that about South Carolina and Clemson, but your presence could be the presence that elevates them to the tournament that particular year.
I can see more so for South Carolina than Clemson.
And I think it's interesting because we always look at stats when we look at a player like a Zion Williamson, not only his points but rebounds. But South Carolina can sell the fact that if you play 1 year on Frank Martin, when you get into the NBA, you will have your defensive disciplines set for you, which is what NBA people look like. They know everybody can score. They want to see if you play defense.
Well, I'm sure that's helped Sindarius to stick with the Clippers.
I was going to say that too. That was one of the things that Frank Martin said about Sindarius Thornwell, is the fact that NBA people came back to him and said that he was one of the best defenders that they saw coming out of the draft, and Martin's a big credit on that.
All right, and from the SEC, this came down this afternoon, and the athletic director at Auburn, Jay Jacobs, has said, "I've had enough." He announced his.
I think the Auburn people might say the same thing about him.
No boss.
Yeah, he's had enough of Auburn, and so he's stepping down. You know, we being afar only keep up with the football, basketball, and baseball, but they've had other things. They had a big softball scandal.
They had a softball
over there
scandal. Well, they have the basketball stuff as well. They're I don't know if you saw last night, their men's basketball team lost to Division II Barry University in overtime in an exhibition game.
Barry, as in Barry?
Yes.
From down in Miami?
Yes.
Oh, you know who coaches that team?
Who's that?
It's our old buddy Butch Estes.
100 to 95 in overtime they lost.
How about that?
So that happened last night. So in that regard, they're not exactly doing well in anything other than maybe football. But at the same time,
and there are people who want to see Gus Malzahn gone.
It's weird. It's a weird place.
It's going to be. You know what, people? You better put on your seatbelts because December is just going to be wild and woolly. Not just in the SEC. I mean, one opening leads to another because somebody is hired. The dominoes start to fall. It's just going to be crazy with all the different moves when it comes to head football coaches.
So crazy. And I was trying to figure this out last night. You know, what is the source of all of this angst among especially SEC coaches, it seems? Is it because Alabama has such a stranglehold on things?
It's the dictator.
It's so there's just so much unnecessary and unfounded angst among all these programs that are, you know, having good seasons by independent standards, independent of at least having championships, but at the same time, the pressure to supplant things is weird.
I hate to self-anoint myself as a genius, but I will. I said years ago when they came up first with the BCS and then the playoffs, I said, wait and see what happens with the fans and the teams that don't make the playoffs. It's going to make the rest of your season pretty much irrelevant. And that's how the fans look at their teams now, especially teams that are used to winning championships. If they're having an off year or two and not making the playoffs, their fans are like, I don't care.
And the committee and those who control college football still refuse to expand it, which is stupid.
Well, if you're going to expand it, as we talked about before, I mean, come up with a way that kind of takes the subjectivity out of it. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Friday night on Sports Talk. Your best 2 hours of the night heading into the weekend. What a great weekend it's going to be. High school football playoffs, big games for USC, Clemson, and other big games around the country. NFL, talked about the racing and all that kind of stuff. And we got basketball creeping up on us as well. 800-956-7266 is your phone number to call. We'll get to you in just a little bit. Let's welcome in David Shelton. Get a little preview on tonight's high school football playoff action brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau Insurance, you could be saving a whole lot of money. Even if you received a quote before, rates are now more competitive than ever. So get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. All right, David joins us now from the Post and Courier and the High School Sports Report. We had one playoff game last night. Northwestern took care of Lawrence. What jumps out at you tonight? Because, you know, you got a lot of number one seeds playing the fours, but then you got more competitive games, I guess, they're in the middle of those brackets.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting games to watch. I don't know how many huge upsets there'll be, but, you know, a game like Burns and Hannah, typically that would not be a first-round game unless Burns were playing at home, but Burns is going to Hannah, so Hannah's undefeated. I don't think that'll be an interesting game. I think Greenwood Nation Ford's an interesting game. Cane Bay and Wilson, you know, people look at that being a 2 versus a 3, but Wilson's very explosive offensively and could give Cane Bay some problems with their, you know, with their passing game. West Florence and Ashley Ridge are a couple of 3 seeds. You know, Ashley Ridge has a better record, but West Florence is pretty hot right now. So, you know, there'll be a handful of games across the state. And there will be an upset or two. I mean, we can almost guarantee at 10 o'clock tonight we'll be talking about somebody that was supposed to win that didn't win.
You stole my thunder on Hannah Burns, so I'll ask you about Wando, who you've seen a lot. They play Conway. Is that one where you think you might be able to see one of the top seeds go down, or is Conway just too strong?
Yeah, I don't have that feeling. I mean, they played earlier in the year. It was 17-7 was the final, so, you know, Wando was actually very competitive in that game. They do play pretty good defense at Wando, so I think they'll keep them close. I just feel like Conway's got too much firepower offensively. It may be another, you know, 21-7 type game. May not be a blowout, but it just kind of depends on how Wando comes ready to play or not. If they're ready to pack it in, Conway will blow them out. But if they're ready to play, I think they can keep it close.
This is a wide-ranging, I'll spit it out, wide-ranging question. Which one seed, anywhere in the state, which number one seed do you think is most vulnerable?
That would be impossible to know without looking right at the bracket. But, you know, gosh, you mean in the first round?
Yeah, tonight? I'm talking upset tonight. Which number one should be on alert status?
I don't know. Throw one out there that you got in mind. I don't really think.
Let's see. Let me see here. Let me throw a number one. How about North Augusta and Westwood?
No, I mean, that would be a pretty big upset. I think North Augusta's having a great year.
North Myrtle, Carleton County? No.
You know, that one, no, I don't think it'll be an upset, but Carleton can score. Now they throw the ball around a bunch, and they got good skill people. But I just feel like North Myrtle Beach is kind of on that little, you know, run of destiny, so to speak. I don't know how long it'll last, but I would be surprised if Carleton made that long a trip and was able to pull that upset.
Let's try one more here that makes sense. How about this one? What about Wade Hampton Manning?
Now that is one because they played earlier in the year, and Manning, I want to say Manning beat them in overtime. Now Wade Hampton, Jerry Brown is there, and playoffs are his bag of tricks. He's won a lot of state titles, but that could be a game. Wade Hampton not accustomed to being in this situation. Manning with some really good athletes, and they having played each other. Didn't like the way Manning played in the conference and down the stretch. They blew a big lead against Bishop England late in the year. But I would say that could possibly happen. I wouldn't pick it, but that could be one to watch.
Mm-hmm. Any hope for Whitmire tonight?
No.
Oh, wow. They're home. They're at home.
Okay, yeah, there is hope because there's nothing like having to travel to Whitmire to play a football game.
That's true.
Well, they are playing Hunter, Conard, Tyler. No offense to the people at HKT, but, I mean, you got to give them some hope.
The hyphenated wonders.
Yeah.
Remember they won a couple state titles a year ago, and every sports writer in the state was so mad because they had to keep writing Hunter,
Conard, Tyler.
Tyler.
Where's out your fingers? Where's out your fingers? Where are you headed tonight?
I am going to watch Fort Dorchester and SportsTalkSC. I was torn between Cane Bay and Wilson and Fort and SportsTalkSC, but I haven't seen Fort in quite a while. I mean, it was funny because when we looked at it, I haven't covered them since early in the season. So because their teams have been such blowouts, we didn't want to waste time going. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they look. The playoffs are here, and I still got them in Dutch Fork playing in the lower state final. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But I sure hope it does because that would be a whale of a game.
Absolutely. Here's a message for SportsTalk fans. Hunter Renfro is not walking through that door.
Oh, man. That's not nice. That's not nice.
I tell you what, though, Hunter Illing is their quarterback, and he's a player.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's enough, to beat Fort, but he's a player.
Mm.
Watch yourself when you speak about my Wolverines again, David. That ain't nice.
Hey, they've only been your team for 2 months.
And only because Bishop England denied him. So, he tried to hook on with the Bishops. They didn't want him. So now Coach Charlie called from Whitmire. He accepted him. So that's why he's a Whitmire guy.
Take him,
yeah. All right.
Well, to be wanted.
Thank you, David. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you tonight, 10 o'clock.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
I'm surprised our friends down in Aiken didn't try to recruit me to be a Strom Thurmond fan either.
Yeah, they don't want you either.
They don't want me either.
We will have, of course, the scores for you on our scoreboards tonight at 10, 10:30, and 11. So if you're looking for all the high school playoff final scores, we'll have them for you here on our scoreboard. And, of course, David's breakdown of the games as well. Let's jump to some phone calls before we hit the bottom of the hour. We've got the football filibuster coming up. Lee Sterling and his Sterling picks. We'll have our picks on the games as well. John in Rock Hill. Good evening and welcome into Sports.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up, John?
Doing well.
I just had a quick thought on our game against Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking all week, and though I think Georgia is 21 points better than us, probably not. Are they a better football team? Yes, absolutely. But I'm just thinking, if we can be in the game in the fourth quarter by 3 to 10 points, be only down by 3 or 10, or maybe how miraculously have the lead in the fourth quarter. If we can just be in the game, start the fourth quarter, I think we have a chance. But I was telling somebody else earlier this week, it's not because we're a bad football team, we're actually a decent team. It's just we're playing Georgia, who's a really good football team. If we lose tomorrow, it won't because I don't think because of us. It'll be because
a more experienced football team, sans the quarterback.
Well, if you're South Carolina, you would love to have a chance in the fourth quarter to do some magic. Yeah, Georgia is, first of all, time they've played as the number one team in the country. I can't remember the last time they were ranked number one. So they're going to come out and try and protect, that new turf that they have now. They're going to come out and play, I'm sure, try to play their best game. If they play their best game, it's going to be very difficult. They need – South Carolina does. They need some turnovers. They need Georgia to make a few mistakes here and there, and South Carolina's got to play. We haven't seen the Gamecocks play their best game. Mm-mm. If they have their best game in them, they need to have it on display tomorrow.
It's hard to envision an avenue for victory, but anything positive that happens for you tomorrow – is gravy. I mean, you have to just take this from a situation you're playing with house money.
You bring it in your trick-or-treat bag, and some of those tricks that you haven't played, you're supposed to have fun in this football game. Nobody gives you a shot.
Think about Melvin Ingram a couple of years ago in this game.
Win the toss, take the ball, score first, put Georgia on its heels, play defense.
You're still not on my bandwagon about deferring.
Gang tackle. Helmets to the football. That's what the Gamecocks need tomorrow.
I'd rather have that first possession of the second half than the first possession of the ball game.
Be right back. Welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. Good to have you with us on this Friday night as we take you into the weekend. Big college football games, of course. USC at Georgia, Clemson at NC State. The games just seem to mean more in November, especially if you're having a good year.
It just means more, right, Phil?
Well, I don't want to steal that from the SEC,
Why
but
not?
that's
Why?
what they like to say. It just means more. It is that time of the week that everybody plans around. Nobody gets married at 6:30 on Fridays in the fall. Nobody goes to the doctor. Nobody goes on a date. Everybody's sitting around. They want to know what the football filibuster is going to be like on that particular Friday with Governor Jim Hodges and also with Attorney General Alan Wilson. They are with us once again. Governor, how are you?
I'm good. Had a great week last week, as did General Wilson, so I feel very good.
Yes, indeed. General Wilson, how are you?
I'm doing really well, guys. Hope you're well.
We're doing great. You know, Governor Hodges, I was just looking here at your Wikipedia page, and I'm 5 days older than you. I didn't realize that.
You look about 10 years older.
I was going to say, you look so much older than me, but I'm 5 days older. How'd that work out? Huh?
He wears it better than you.
I knew we were the same age.
Wait a second. I didn't know you were 75.
Wow.
Who, me or him? Or both of us? I guess you're slamming both of us there, huh?
You're taking a shot at both.
There you go. And you're number 114. I was looking up. I wanted to remind myself what number governor you were in the history of our great state. You were number 114.
That's right.
That's not a prisoner number. That's a governor number.
Number one. We had a lot of governors in this state. I'm telling you. Only 40-something presidents and 100 and what are we at now? About 116, 117 governors. All right, let's get to the picks. Enough of this gibberish. Last week, because in our little system, if you have a push, you get credit for a win. Okay, that's just how we are. We give everybody a trophy here. So if you had a push, you got to win. So both went 5-0.
Some of us also went 5-0 in this room.
Absolutely.
Some of us.
28-17 for the governor, 26-19 for the general. So, General, you shall lead us here once again. We'll go back and forth. I like that. But we'll begin with you. LSU at Alabama. It just means more in the SEC. Alabama laying 21 points at home after both teams have had a week off. So what do you think, Attorney General Wilson?
Well, I think Alabama's going to win this game, and I think it'll probably be a 2-touchdown or more. But I do like LSU for the points. I think they're playing a little bit better. So I'm going to go with LSU for the points. They'll lose, but I think they'll keep it interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right, Governor.
I think I'm going to take Bama. They're playing at home, and I think LSU is going to struggle to do anything offensively and have some turnovers. So I think Bama is going to win this one by more than 21.
Yeah, it's too bad Governor Beasley's not involved here because what would he say about picking this game? Mary Wood would say, I'd take Alabama. I'm taking Alabama, Mary Wood. Got to see her tonight. I'd take Alabama. Where is Governor Beasley, by the way? Where'd they send him? He's gone somewhere, hasn't he?
I got an email from him the other day. He's in Rome right now.
Well, when in Rome.
Nice life, huh?
When in Rome.
They're not allowed to talk garbage because I think Governor Hodges, you were in Venice earlier this year, were you not?
You're right about that.
Okay. But, of course, neither is doing this on South Carolina taxpayer dollars anymore. Now, are we, Governor?
That's exactly right.
Auburn at Texas A&M. And, Governor, you get the first shot at this one.
Too many points when they're playing at A&M on that. I mean, I think Auburn will win, but I believe that A&M will be able to keep it under 15. So I'm going to take A&M.
Yeah, spread's 15. The home team is getting it, General Wilson. Texas A&M is such a hard team to figure out. I cannot get my head around those guys.
You know, I think I read this week they were 5-16 against the spread in the last 21 games, but you know Auburn's missing a running back, but A&M's at home, and I kind of went back and forth on this one, and I'm going to come down on the side with the governor on this one. I think A&M will carry the points on this.
Still think that Auburn will be able to run it ragged on A&M.
Yeah, their defense still stinks, doesn't it?
Still bad.
What has happened to John Chavis out there coaching that defense? Their players can't be that bad. I mean, they're Texas A&M.
He left LSU. That's what happened.
They're a one-trick pony. They like to rush the passer. That's all they like to do.
Okay,
And they
General.
lost Myles Garrett too.
General, Virginia Tech at Miami. The undefeated Miami Hurricanes, the underdog here, getting 2.5 at home.
I'm going to go. Virginia Tech's been 9-3 against the spread. So I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech in this one.
Look at the AG coming out here with the stats against the spread, man. I love
think he's
that.
been consulting a bookie. You got a bookie?
No, but I have Google.
Governor Hodges, what do you think?
I think I'm going to take the Canes in this one. Getting 3 points at home, that's certainly not a lot of love for them. And if they lose, I think it'll be under 3 points. So I'll take Miami.
You got Miami. Okay, now let's get to the locals. USC at Georgia. Georgia laying 23.5 betwixt the hedges. Governor Hodges.
I think Georgia is going to win this comfortably, but I do not believe that they're going to beat us by 24 points. I think we're going to play well enough to, hopefully keep it down to keep it in single digits. So I'm going to take the Gamecocks.
You want the Gamecocks. Okay. Attorney General Wilson, you think what?
Oh, man, this is the head versus the heart. I've been struggling with this one when I was looking at it earlier today. I think Georgia against the SEC is averaging, 32 points a game in the margin of victory. But this is where the heart pulls me back. I'm with the governor. I don't know if the Gamecocks are going to win this one, but I always believe that this game is always played closer. And we always play up to them or down to them, depending on what year it is. And I do think it'll be a loss, but I think it'll be within the margin. So I'm going with the Gamecocks.
Only 18 victories in school history in this series between these two teams for South Carolina. It's been largely dominated by Georgia.
Well, but a lot of that was many years ago.
Yeah.
Most recently, it's been South Carolina has had a little bit of an edge, but at Sanford Stadium, Georgia's kicked the Gamecocks pretty good most of the time. All right, that takes us to our final game. Clemson at NC State, the old Textile Bowl. They're not calling it that anymore, are they?
No,
they
they
did
don't.
away with that. It's too bad. Went the way of the textile industry, I
call it.
guess. 7.5-point favorite for the Wolfies at home. A.G. Wilson, you get the first crack at this.
The Tigers.
Oh, you're not messing around.
Nah.
Easy? Tigers? You thinking Tigers easy?
Oh, I mean, I think I don't know. I just have a feeling the Tigers are going to pull this one out.
Okay. Governor Hodges.
Well, they're playing the Textile Bowl in China now, I understand. So maybe they should have moved the game there.
Not for long. Trump says not for long.
Right. I'm going to take NC State. I think Clemson's going to win this one, but I do believe it's after that embarrassment last week that NC State's going to keep it a touchdown or less. So I'll take Clemson to win it, but State to I'll take the points with State.
Okay. We want the points, the 7.5 with State. Very good. Now a moment for amendments. Attorney General Wilson, would you like to amend anything? You do have a difference of opinion. Alabama, LSU, Miami, Virginia Tech, NC State, Clemson. You agree on USC and you agree on Texas A&M. Would you like to amend anything?
Yeah, golly. I'm gonna let it. I do want to amend something, but I'm not. I'm gonna keep it.
Well, that's not amending. That's not an amendment if you keep it.
Well, like I said, we're different on 3 games, and he's, I thought I was going to catch up with him a little bit last week when I went 5-0, and you led me to believe I was going to close it by 1.
We had a statistical error. We had a clerical error in the initial release.
It's fair. It's fair. You know what? Let me do this. Bama at home. Let me flip to Bama on the first game.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that puts you even then with Governor Hodges if you want Bama.
Yeah.
You want Bama. Right. Okay. Governor, real quick, you got any changes?
I'm confused, but I think I'll stick with what I have.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. We thank you very much. The football filibuster with the governor and the AG here on Sports Talk.
Way to confuse the politicians, Corn.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on this Friday night. Normally, Lee Sterling is with us. We're having a problem connecting with Lee. We'll try to reach him here as soon as we can. While we have a moment, let's talk about our picks for this weekend. So LSU and Alabama, we have a split bag here. Pro and I are taking LSU, as is the big kahuna, Bobby Harton. Everybody else is taking Alabama.
I just can't with Bama anymore. I'm just not picking against
Well,
them
every
anymore.
time I pick against them, I do lose. But I just think LSU is just going to come up with an effort, and 21 points is a lot to me, even on the road. I just think LSU is going to have one of those things. They've sort of found themselves after having that embarrassing loss, and they've kind of picked themselves back up. I look for a spirited effort by LSU. By the way, you did go 5-0 last week. No, you didn't. Yes, you did.
I did.
You and Kev Cohen went 5-0 with the help of the pushes.
Thank you.
Everybody did well because of that. Matt, the newsman, went 4-1. Bobby, the big kahuna down in Charleston, went 4-1.
No, let no one tell you Sports Talk supports socialism.
Pro and I went 3-2, and the bad boy, Alan Smothers, also went 3-2. So our standings now, the big kahuna, Bobby Harton in Charleston, 27 up and 18 down. He leads. In second place, we have a tie.
Three-way tie.
I'm 25-20. You're 25-20, Willie P. And the bad boy, Alan Smothers, is 25-20. Next would be a tie between Pro and Kev Cohen at 21-24. Matt, the newsman, in the basement at 20-25.
That's why he's the newsman.
So on to other games. We're all taking Texas A&M and the points. Every one of us taking Texas A&M and the points against Auburn. We are all taking Virginia Tech and laying the 2.5 against Miami.
That's no fun.
I'm a little bit concerned about that, but I just think Virginia Tech is better. I think Miami's been playing on borrowed time.
They are living a charmed life right now.
USC at Georgia, my goodness. Everybody took the Gamecocks and the points. That's scary.
That's a lot of points.
Everybody took the 23.5. And then Clemson and NC State. Pro, you're taking the Wolfies. And the big kahuna is taking the Wolfies.
Not a
Alan
shot.
Smothers, who is an unabashed Wolfpack fan, is taking Clemson.
Interesting.
Like they say, it's a long way from my head to my – no, from my – it's a
head to my heart.
No, head to my wallet. Yeah, it's farther – I can't. What is it, Lee?
Farther from my head to my wallet than it is from my head to my heart?
No, Lee Sterling, what is the saying?
Never heard that saying. I haven't heard that one down in Miami.
It's shorter. No, it's a shorter distance from my heart to my wallet than it is from my head to my wallet. I think that's what it is. But anyway, How are you?
Doing okay. Kind of laying low, getting ready for the Miami game tomorrow. Big one for Miami. First time they have a chance to go to the conference championship game since they joined the ACC. I don't think that was the plan when the ACC let them in.
That it would take this long.
Oh no, I think they thought Miami was going to be there every other year.
Yeah,
I mean, Miami, not ticket sales, but TV. They still drive it, which is incredible. Miami and Notre Dame have been not good, pretty except for that 1 or 2 year period for Notre Dame the last 15 years, but they're always in the top 5 in TV ratings.
Well, and they've had a charmed season so far. We'll see if you think they can keep it going. What do you have for everybody to check in on this weekend at ParamountSports.com?
Well, how about this? We have we rate our games from 10 to 50 units. First time this year, we're going to throw out a 50-unit selection. We're documented 30-9 on these games going back the last 8 years. So someone's waiting for the right time. This is it. And we have what's called our November to Remember special from tonight all the way through Monday, December 4th, championship weekend, 5 weeks of action. If you use coupon code SAVE100, get everything for $397, ParamountSports.com.
And you're coming off a 2-1 week, so another successful week for you.
Yeah. So 8 out of 10 winning weeks for the client. So pretty much everyone's happy.
When you win, everybody wins. Let's get to your games. Let's start with Alabama laying 21 at home against LSU.
Yeah, and I think this Alabama team is probably going to be too much for LSU. How about going back to the game last year? Danny Etling has two other top-end receivers besides what he has going this year, and Travis Durrell and also Malachi Dupree. And he just threw for 11 for 24 for only 92 yards in that game. And that's the best part of their offense. The running game only gained 33 yards, and they got goose-egged. Their defensive line just absolutely undersized. They got to do some recruiting there. And Mississippi State dual-threat quarterback Nick Fitzgerald ran all over them in a 37-7 win this year. Jalen Hurts has already put up 572 rushing yards. He'll come up with at least a buck 25 here. And Bama, they're on a collision course here with Georgia for the SEC championship game. All I got to say here is roll Tide, 34-6.
Virginia Tech at Miami. Virginia Tech, the visitor, favored by 2.
Yeah, down to 1.5 now, and I think some people are figuring out this game probably going to come down to the finish here. And this is a game for Miami. I really don't know how Miami will get back up next week, whether they win or lose. If they win, I hear there's all kinds of parties planned for after the game and going through the weekend. If they lose, I mean, there's nothing really for them left to play for. So Miami's got to take some shots here. They have a vanilla offense, got to put in a few new formations. Bud Foster will give you some shots down the field. As you saw, Clemson threw all over them early in the game and built up a nice lead. And you got to do it with receivers. And Miami has those receivers that might be able to do some damage there. So if this is gonna come down to Mark Richt, can he call the game that can put Miami over the top here? And the crowd will be ready. And Miami, I think they're going to play with the lead this game and have to hold off Virginia Tech. So I think Miami's going to find a way somehow. It won't be easy, but I have Miami 27-24.
Heart closer to the wallet than the head.
I don't know on that one. Yeah, it won't be a client selection. I can tell you that.
All right, quickly,
Yep.
Georgia favored by 24 over the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I think Georgia running the ball number 4 in the country, run defense number 6. Might be too much here for South Carolina. South Carolina, one of the weaker 5-2 Power 5 conference teams around here. It's not another game I don't like a whole lot, but I'll take Georgia 38-10.
38-10, Georgia to cover. And Clemson, NC State, Tigers, road favorites by a touchdown.
A game I actually like a lot here, and it'll be on my client card here. Notre Dame ran for 318 on NC State. Loved NC State. I thought they were one of the most underrated teams going into the year and early in the season, but bubble burst here for them, and Ryan Finley starting to look ordinary. But when Kelly Bryant is healthy, they won every game by 8 points or more, and it looks like he's about 95% now. Tigers, they are a better proposition, laying single-digit points on the road than double digits at home. Clemson 28-17. We'll see you guys in Charlotte December 2nd.
Here. They're terrible when they're double-digit home favorites, aren't they?
Right.
Burned me repeatedly. Game of the week, Panthers and the Falcons.
Yeah, they want to get this game. Just call 800-400-9741. We're going to find out which team can finally start separating themselves, Panthers and Falcons. 800-400-9741. First 10 callers get it. Or like I said, check us out all weekend if you want to get involved in the 50-unit play, ParamountSports.com.
Thank you, Lee. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Lee Sterling, Sterling Picks. Yes, it's that famed I-85 rivalry. Panthers, Falcons. Let's go Cats. Let's go Cats.
Well, it's interesting,
I told you the Falcons just going to die this year after losing in the Super Bowl.
And that is the Falcons take the bus to Charlotte. They don't fly to Charlotte.
Stink.
Falcons should have lost the darn Jets.
Bro doesn't like me talking about the Falcons.
They should have lost to the Jets.
Because you don't know what you're talking about. And
I told you they weren't going to be any good.
What are you talking? They're 4-3. What is this?
They're supposed to be better than that.
No.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose to the Panthers. No. Where's that game? Where's that game?
It doesn't matter.
You think the Falcons win no matter. All right, top of the hour. Top of the hour break. He's in Buffalo.
Who are you throwing to? Demir Bird?
We'll be right back.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Friday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes with you. Have recruiting coming up for you in just a little bit. You know, we've got almost a full slate of college football action involving teams around the states Saturday. Of course, we've talked about South Carolina and Georgia, Clemson and NC State. Now, Furman, which has been red hot of late, gets the Saturday off, a chance to enjoy what they've been doing. Coastal Carolina is on the road to play Arkansas out in Fayetteville. South Carolina State is off tomorrow. The Citadel, which has won 2 in a row, tries to make it 3 in a row. The Bulldogs home to Western Carolina. Wofford will be at home to take on UT Chattanooga. Charleston Southern goes to Gardner-Webb. Presbyterian heads up to the Northeast to play Monmouth. It's Newberry tomorrow at Catawba. North Greenville hosting Delta State. Limestone closing out its regular season playing at Wingate, and Benedict College will be home to play Kentucky State tomorrow. Now, the Tigers of Benedict, if you haven't been paying attention, they're having a heck of a season. And Coach Mike White joins us here on Sports Talk as he looks to close out another successful year with the Tigers and his rebuilding process of that program. Coach, how are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
Man, we're doing great, and congratulations on your season so far. Looking to close it out with a big win, which would give you 7 wins on the season. Just tell us about how this team and this good season has come together for you.
Well, we you know, it's been a process. This was a pretty good off season. Picked up a few good recruits in the off season. The guys been pulling together and you know, just paying attention to the little things and trying to get better at what we do defensively and offensively. I think defensively we've had a pretty good year. We've been able to run the ball, and it's allowed us to be in most games and kind of finish them in the fourth quarter. So we hope we build on that and keep it going.
Yeah, and tell you what, your 2 losses in overtime, I mean, you're very close to being unbeaten.
Yeah, that's kind of still a tough one, losing those 2 games in overtime. We thought we was right there and could have had them, but I think we've lived and kind of bounced back from those games and learned from them, and a little bit better team because of them.
Mm-hmm.
20th in the country in scoring defense, Coach. What do you attribute to this defense from being as strong as it is?
Yeah, we have a real good front. We have a good defensive line. You know, they have been playing together for 3 years now, and it's kind of just tough to run on us, period. I don't know where we rank in the rushing defense, but we're right up there also. Just makes it tough for any team to run on us and kind of make them force them one-dimensional, and we've been, you know, forcing each team to do that and kind of been playing into our hands and kind of worked out for us.
Tied for 9th, by the way, in rushing defense in the country at 83 points per 83 yards a game.
Yeah, been an arduous task, Coach, a slow building process, but a successful one at Benedict. Always good to get a win anytime you head to Atlanta to play Morehouse, and you had to play 2 overtimes. But that, I don't know if you have a contract where you get paid for overtime or whatever, but as far as your team, looks like they played a lot of those sort of Maalox games. What have you learned about your players being able to execute when things are really tight down the stretch?
Well, you know, I think all good teams, you want to be, you know, we want to be a physical team. We want to be kind of mentally tough. So when we get to the fourth quarter, whether you're up 7 or down 7, you still want to go in there and finish that quarter. And one game we were leading, and the team came back on. I think Limestone came back and tied, and Fort Valley was up on us 21-0, and we came back and tied them. So it just says a lot about, you know, our growth and where we are and how hard we want to, you know, be a good football team in that fourth quarter. And to come back and have a third overtime game, you know, it kind of sent chills on me to think about that moment, because our guys on the sideline, our leadership is in good shape. was just talking about the last two overtimes we were in, that we were going to make sure we was going to finish this one, and they did.
You have used three quarterbacks this year. Each one's thrown at least one touchdown. Each one has thrown a fair number of passes. I mean, are you rotating three guys? Has it been an injury deal? Why have three quarterbacks gotten significant playing time?
Yeah, that's probably been the biggest story of the year for us. I don't know how many, especially on Division II, that you can go three with your third quarterback. But the first quarterback was Dominic Harris. He was just dominant, running, throwing, and led us in those first 5 games, and had a knee injury. The second quarterback came in and did a great job for us for 2 games and concussion, and this is his third one within a year. We found out then, so they're asking him to basically, think twice about coming back on the field. So we had to go to the third quarterback, and Philip Brown has done a very good job for us, just keeping it, the chain moving, and he's a very good runner and kind of intermediate passer type quarterback, but he's done a good job. So I'm very proud of our coaches and our that's kind of put a game plan together for those three different style quarterbacks. So it's been good so far. And like I said, to go to your third one, I have not done that in my whole coaching career.
Yeah,
went that deep in quarterback.
Your middle one, Christian Lisby, 6'5", 220, is from Denmark, not South Carolina. We're talking Denmark, the country. How did you find a quarterback in Copenhagen, Denmark?
The internet, he was communicating with another recruit, and we were looking for a quarterback, and that's how that happened. And we saw him, we liked him on film. He started kind of really warming up to us, and before you know it, he thought we would have stabbed to stay with him the longest, and when he did a great job. He's a smart. He's the kind of kid he's going to be a good coach one day. I mean, he sees. As a matter of fact, he used to calm me down when I would talk to him in pregame about what's happening, what he sees, and what's going to happen here. The game coming up, that he was that kind of quarterback. But it was just tough to see him go through that with the tough concussion, and just kind of hope he gets himself, just life is a long time, and you got to, look forward, and I think that's where he is right now.
Sure.
You guys conclude the regular season with Kentucky State. How do you feel about this contest? How do you feel y'all match up?
Yeah, we know last couple of years we haven't finished the season well. One of the seniors, we'd have a senior talk today, and they said no senior in the last 4 years have finished senior day here at home and won that game. So we know this is a big contest for us. We're going to play hard. We're gonna go out here and try to get them stopped. They want to run the ball on us. They have an athletic quarterback, so we got to just go in and kind of force our will on them. But it's important for us to finish this season on a positive note, and go in all season and see can we build.
So there's no potential for a postseason spot for you anywhere?
No, I don't think so. Not with the 7-2 record. We lost the game right there. One team backed out on us, so we had the open week, and with the overtime loss Fort Valley. Fort Valley holds the head-to-head on us, and so they will go ahead and represent the conference on the East, and I don't think it is possible for any playoff or anything with us being not making it into that championship game.
Gotcha. Well, listen, congratulations on what's been a terrific year. You have brought that program along in a hurry. I remember being there in your first year with you last year and seeing this thing come together. So continued success. Good luck tomorrow, and we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Coach Mike White from Benedict, maybe the quietest 6-2 team in the state right now, a chance to finish up 7-2, and congratulations to them if they can get that win over Kentucky State tomorrow at home here in Columbia. All right, we'll be back. Going to find out more about those Georgia Bulldogs from their play-by-play man, Scott Howard. The full Monty on NASCAR coming up, and we have not forgotten about recruiting either.
It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Football Friday, getting ready for a couple of big games. Clemson has to go north of the border and take on North Carolina State, and Georgia and South Carolina will face off against each other between the hedges in Athens. Man who covers and calls the games for the Georgia Bulldogs is Scott Howard. He joins us on our hotline. Scott, great to talk with you. My first question to you, how surprised were you when you saw that ranking show on Tuesday night and Georgia was up top?
Well, that's been all the talk in this part of the country, certainly since Tuesday night. But you know, I kind of figured, and I didn't even watch the show. I just kind of waited for the news to come out. But I think most folks that have followed Georgia this season figured would be, you know, in the talking points in the top four. Didn't know would be number one, although some people predicted that I heard. But you know, I think at this point it's certainly deserved. Although we're all aware that it can change from week to week, and so it's just how well you play the next time out. But it's certainly kind of a fun thing to talk about right now and enjoy it.
How would you, if you were trying to sell somebody who was either in Tuscaloosa or in that state to your west, how would you sell them on Georgia's #1 ranking?
Well, probably you know, the way they've beaten opponents, margin of victory certainly in this league. I mean, the score margin has been dominating for Georgia. They're averaging, I think it's a 42-10 average score in conference games alone. The road win at Notre Dame certainly is proving to be very large for Georgia. You know, those are probably the first two things that come to mind as far as Georgia being deserving of that #1 spot, at least according to the committee at this point.
What did it mean to have both Nick Chubb and Sony Michel come back as seniors and come back as guys who it seemed like really wanted to win not only an SEC East title, but also go after an SEC championship?
Well, a great deal. I think you're seeing the fruits of their labor right now. And, you know, with Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy on defense doing the same thing, it's kind of the perfect package for Georgia, at least thus far through 8 games. All of those guys have contributed mightily to Georgia's success so far this season, and certainly with Chubb and Michel. I mean, they're going to go down as 2 of the all-time great running backs in Georgia history, and you know, even SEC history. I mean, Chubb is in the top 5 in rushing all time in the conference. So those are numbers that rarely surface in a player's career, and all 4 of those guys have been good wards of the university. They've been good players on the field, and they've been good people off the field too. And that's certainly a plus for any program.
Points to the Georgia Bulldogs. Scott Howard joining us here on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. When Jacob Eason went down, everybody was kind of wondering how Jake Fromm would step into his stead, and he's not only done a remarkable job, but he has made people think that he might be the guy going forward. How surprised are you at his emergence?
Not at all, to tell you the truth. We saw Jake. He was an early enrollee back in January, so we got to see him in the spring. We got to see his work ethic in the spring, his knowledge of what Georgia does here offensively, even at that you know, young part of his college career. I mean, he was already kind of advanced, I thought, and I thought he had the ability to be the quarterback back in the spring. So when the opportunity arose, when Jacob Eason was injured in the first game against App State, just personally, I didn't think that Georgia would have too many hiccups, to be honest with you. I didn't know how much you know, they would put on Jake to throw the football, to try to win ball games, and he hasn't had to do that. So that's kind of been a luxury. He's got such a good crew around him, and as we mentioned earlier, you know, Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, and the receivers have been a plus this year, and the offensive line has improved. So you put a guy that's basically inexperienced, but having the knowledge that he does and having the ability that he does, you put him in the middle of a good, solid unit, pardon me, and it spells a lot of success. And that's kind of what Georgia's experiencing right now.
Scott Howard joining us here from the Georgia Bulldog Radio Network here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. The defense for Georgia, I mean, it's pretty hard to be overlooked. You really can't overlook it. It's third ranked nationally in scoring defense, and certainly in the top 6 in not only pass defense but also rush defense. Offense gets a lot of attention, but in my mind, this defense is about as good as any in this country.
It's been very good. It's they played together well as a unit. They used a lot of different bodies. We've suffered through some injuries and some, and a suspension here and there. And next man up has been a good situation for Georgia. So it's a unit that's fortunate to have the depth that it has and the talent behind the first teamers that we have. So it hasn't been. One area of concern for this team has been its pass rush, and it's kind of been hot and cold from game to game. Notre Dame, it was very good. Florida last week, it was very good, but it hasn't been consistent. So that's been one area that Kirby Smart and his coaches have wanted to try to improve overall. But I think it has been very good from game to game. Georgia's had a lot of success stopping the run, and that's rule number 1 with Kirby Smart. You stop the run first. So that's at the top of his list, and he can put the check mark by that one in just about every ball game. So it kind of goes from there. The secondary has probably improved a great deal. Dominic Sanders was one of the key players coming back. He's had a nice season, but J.R. Reed has surpassed probably everybody's expectations. Transfer from Tulsa, who sat out last season. And he's having a phenomenal season and has been a big boost to Georgia's secondary.
Yeah, really, the only game where it looked like the defense had its struggles really mightily was the game against Missouri, where the Tigers were kind of able to hang with Georgia for a half before Georgia outscored that porous defense in the second half. What went wrong in your mind, and are those things that have either been corrected or could they crop up against a great quarterback that South Carolina brings to the table?
Well, Missouri has a very effective offense. Their quarterback is good, and to stretch the field, they like to go long, and they had success with it against Georgia on some what we were told was some miscommunication by the secondary, and it was basically simple. It wasn't anything strategically that fooled Georgia. It was just long routes, and the receiver got behind the defense, and Drew Lock hit the guy in stride, and they had a couple of 63-yard touchdown passes, and certainly that didn't sit too well with the head coach and the coaching staff. So you're right about that. That was an issue, and it was in the first half, and I think it was fixed in the second half of that ball game, and we didn't really see it surface last week against Florida. They were unable to score at all until late and didn't really have a lot of gash plays either. So I think that has been addressed. Hopefully Georgia knows what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to be at any given moment in the game, and it won't happen again to this defensive unit.
You mentioned the game against Florida, and we said this on the show yesterday. It does seem like Georgia has probably more rivals than any school in the SEC, because you have the kinship, obviously, with Florida, and then the South's oldest rivalry with Auburn, obviously the in-state rival with Georgia Tech. But folks on the South Carolina side of things at least see Georgia as a rival. Where does South Carolina rank in the eyes of Georgia fans?
Well, I think it's just like you said. It depends on what part of the state you live in from the fan base. I mean, everybody's got their favorite, and South Carolina's certainly up there. Florida's up there, Auburn's up there, Tennessee's up there, Georgia Tech's up there. Everybody surrounding the state has probably got a favorite game, a game that means the most to them, and certainly South Carolina's in the mix. So this is a big game for Georgia. That's the way they're approaching it. They're trying to, as we always hear, they're trying to block out the noise of that #1 ranking and everybody patting them on the back. And so far, this team has had success doing that week by week. They've been focused every time out. They really haven't experienced a lot of letdowns. And so it's unique in that sense that Georgia has been able to do that week by week. And And they hope to do that with another rival this week when South Carolina comes to town.
Scott, thank you so much for the time. We'll look forward to seeing you Saturday.
Will, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Voice of the Georgia Bulldogs, Scott Howard. We'll come back with the full Monty on NASCAR next on Sports Talk.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on this Friday night. It is time now for the full Monty on NASCAR. Monty Dutton, MontyDutton.com, joining us as we are running out of races, running out of time to crown a champion here in just a couple of weeks in NASCAR. And Monty, heck of a race at Martinsville, and I'm sure you've seen that kind of finish there a million times. Leader doesn't have a great lead. Second place car gets the nose right up on his bumper, turns him into the wall, then all heck breaks loose.
Yes, I think that'll be a memorable. I think that will have an effect on the future. In that, I think it will greatly, even though he was the fall guy, I think Chase Elliott will have a surge in popularity. It might boost him to be the next, young fan favorite, the next most popular driver. And I think that it will sort of have an effect on Denny Hamlin. In the short term, he will be less popular, but in the long term, he will probably inherit a group of fans who just like the tough, hard driver. It reminds me sort of the '89 Winston, in which an incident near the end sort of transformed. Darrell Waltrip went from a bad guy to a good guy, and Rusty Wallace went from a good guy to a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of Darrell back in those days. We look back at him as being colorful and funny, but for early in his career, he sort of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. When he came in, he was very brash and took on the generation of greats like Richard Petty and David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Bobby Allison, and he was sort of a bad guy because people resented him. Nobody's ever resented Chase Elliott, but I think having a little, shouting match in front of the crowd, Martinsville's a perfect place to do it. Many times I've seen the fans rise in a standing ovation after a wrecked driver got out of his car and shook his fist at the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
But Martinsville is kind of the best atmosphere for things like that. Mainly because if you went to the state fair and you went on the bumper cars and everybody tried to race instead of run into each other, that would be roughly what Martinsville is.
Now, both are in the playoffs still, so you wouldn't think that this would be a time for retaliation, would you?
No, I think both of them need to win the race. I think that I think what's going to happen with these guys is, probably nothing will happen. But I think this is one of those things where there's a little. I think they're both. I think that Chase Elliott sort of has a free pass to rough up Hamlin a time or two. I don't think you'll see it. He might not be racing for position and all that, but I mean, I think it's one of those things where how drivers say, "I race the guy the way he races me." Well, I think that Hamlin better darn well know that he better not crowd Elliott too much. I'm thinking that's the way it works.
You mentioned the departure of Dale, and I kind of wanted to ask you this, and this might be a better question for after Homestead, but do you think that there is somebody there to kind of take the proverbial torch, if you will, from Dale as kind of the guy who is I don't want to say he's universally loved, but there aren't that many people who have a bad word to say about Dale Jr.?
Well, Chase Elliott has an obstacle, and he hasn't won a race. He's performed very impressively, but it's also quite interesting because, like Dale Earnhardt Jr., he inherits a lot of the fans of his father. And
True.
The driver who won most popular driver year after year after year after year before Dale Earnhardt Jr. was Bill Elliott. And so there's a natural tie to Chase Elliott. He's going to go back to his father's number for most of his career, number 9 next year. And so Chase Elliott already had sort of had a natural fan base. But I think if he goes, it's sort of, he has to be successful. He has to continue to be a contender. He's in top flight equipment, but I think that it hasn't happened yet, but that's a real possibility because I think the incident last week where, by the way, I think you have to divide this. There's no question that what Hamlin did was over the line. It wasn't rubbing. It wasn't nudging up a lane. It was pushing a guy like a sled down the other one and not backing off to let him get. I mean, he absolutely got wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
And but on the other hand, in this format, where everything is, where everything is brought up to a boil leading down to the end, I mean, there's a powerful incentive to toss aside all rules of civilized behavior at this stage of the season.
Well, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, depending on how you want to look at it. NASCAR, I'm sure, looked at it. They didn't fine him. They didn't penalize him, and I'm sure they looked at it just as good, hard racing. And I'm sure the fans who were there and watching on television got a big whoopee out of it because it brought some excitement there at the very end of that race.
It was a rousing spectacle. It was just what Martinsville is wonderful for. You know, except that, as I said, it's usually, in general rule in racing. Now, I think that a lot of people who were watching that last week, the people who don't say anything, they sort of want to cop out and they want to make every incident be just alike, not pass judgment, that type of thing. But was without doubt over the line, just as the incident where Matt Kenseth wrecked Joey Logano and may have cost Logano the championship in 2015. That was over the line too. In the first case, there was Kenseth was without doubt giving a big, obvious, I don't want anybody to think this isn't a payback from the fact that he had earlier been in an accident that eliminated him from contention. That Logano was doing, at least in his mind. And so I think that's what you go to Martinsville for in a way. But I really do think that it was over the line. I mean, I think that, Hamlin hit Elliott in a way that no one probably could have saved that car from going over the wall. And that's a bit out of bounds. On the other hand, you got to do what you got to do to win. And it'll be interesting to see if either of those drivers sort of offset what happened last week and win, and it allows them to get in the Final Four.
Monty Dutton, the full Monty on NASCAR, joining us here on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, to the unincorporated town of No Limits, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth and Texas Motor Speedway this week. Who does this track set up for best, Monty, and who are you looking for this week?
The last 5 races on 1.5 mile track have been won by Martin Truex. So he's about as much of a favorite. On the other hand, Kyle Busch is right there, and Kyle Larson has been very strong. Chase Elliott has been strong. And also, the big question mark is that Jimmy Johnson has won 7 races at Texas, and today he has been just awful. And so I don't know. Johnson was great at Martinsville, and he got himself a good finishing position after starting back at the back and used strategy. But at Martinsville, everyone knew he had a fast car. He hasn't shown in practice today that he has a fast car, so you can't count him out. But that would be a dramatic development. If Truex is already in the Final Four, he has no particular incentive to win, except that it would be his 8th year. Because he is the overwhelming. If the champion is deserving based on the performance during the year, the champion is going to be Truex. But with this system, we've got a 1-4 in the last race. So I think that's the scenario that develops. So I really think Truex is about as strong a favorite as you're going to have in the chase this year for an individual race.
All right, Monty. Thank you, my man. Enjoy the race. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you next week. We'll have 2 to go, Phoenix and Homestead after that, and we'll talk to you then. Thank you very much.
Much obliged, Phil. Thanks for having me.
The full Monty on NASCAR. Ryan Blaney, fastest in the practice earlier today at just under 200 miles an hour.
2 of those last 3 tracks are great places to see races. I love that they're in the chase.
All right, we'll be right back here on Sports Talk on this Friday night.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And we're brought to you in parts by South Carolina Electric Cooperative, your local electric cooperative, sponsors of the annual Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. And to find out more about what the co-ops are doing across the state, visit ecsc.org and save the date, December 9th, upcoming, for the Touchstone Energy Cooperatives Bowl. Tickets are now on sale, $15 until November 24th. Price rises to $20 after that. Visit their website, touchstoneenergybowl.com. That's touchstoneenergybowl.com. Also, go ahead and vote for the finalists for Mr. Football, the 5 finalists. You can have your opinion heard there. You can vote at scliving.coop/football. Speaking of polls, on our website, sportstalksc.com, the numbers are just about in for the week. On a scale of 1 to 5, how will USC do? What chance do you give USC of upsetting Georgia? Scale of 1 to 5. 49% give the Gamecocks a 1. 22% give them a 2. 16 a 3. 7, almost 8% give them a chance of a 5. 36 people voted 5, and the rest voted 4.
A little Pollyannish there.
It's a lot.
For 5.
It's a lot.
Wishing. Just wishing, that's all.
I picked 38-17 in my column.
38-17.
Georgia. Cover, but not a win.
38-17. I'll get to that in a minute. Qualifying at Texas ended a little while ago. Kurt Busch, your poll winner, 200.915. That's a record. Denny Hamlin, boo. Can we do this all together? Denny Hamlin, boo. Huh?
I kind of like it.
Denny Hamlin.
I like the villainy. I kind of like it. Everybody needs a villain.
He
man.
qualified second, 200.617. Kevin Harvick, Eric Jones, Kyle Busch. That's the rest of your top 5.
He's the hero we need, but not the one we deserve.
Oh, I like that. It's good.
It's another movie quote that you probably don't understand or get.
That would be The Dark Knight.
Get out! Look at you.
One of my favorite movies. Yes, one of my favorite movies.
Ding, 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 ding,
one of my
ding,
favorite
ding,
movies.
ding.
I didn't put the dollar bill on there, though.
Got a lot of recruiting for a Friday. Sorry to hold it hostage until the end of the show, but we just didn't have a chance to get it in. So, again, USC Sunday will have Zion Williamson in attendance at that game against Virginia Tech, at exhibition game. His mother confirmed that today. This will be another unofficial for him to USC. He's been official to Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, unofficial to Clemson. He has not publicly indicated a favorite in his recruiting sweepstakes. The early signing period begins Wednesday and lasts a week. He has not said if he will sign early. Now, last week, Frank Martin hosted a top 2019 prospect, 6'9" DJ Burns of York Prep, his second official to USC. He's also been to Tennessee in the last month. Said he really enjoyed it, likes Martin a lot, feels comfortable with the coaches. His mom was with him on the visit. The two stayed over for the football game against Vandy. He picked up an offer from Virginia this week. He also has offers from Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Georgia, and LSU, also hearing from Clemson. Now, football. Georgia, Alabama will be destinations this weekend for USC and Clemson targets. Defensive back J.C. Horn remains a Tennessee commitment for now, but he's been to 2 USC games recently, and he plans to return for the Florida game. He'll be in Athens. Defensive lineman Rick Sandidge will see the Gamecocks for the 4th time this season in a 3rd different stadium. He was in Charlotte for the opener against State. He's been to Williams-Brice twice, and he'll be at Sanford Stadium. Linebacker Channing Tindall also plans to be in Athens on Saturday, eyeing both teams. The Gamecocks and the Bulldogs are 2 of his top 4. He's been to USC for multiple games this season at Williams-Brice. USC Georgia will also attract Clemson targets. Offensive lineman Cade Mays, a Tennessee commitment. Offensive lineman Jamari Sawyer, down to Clemson in Georgia. Clemson targets receiver Justin Ross, defensive back Kelvin Joseph, plan to be at Alabama Saturday night for the LSU game. USC target offensive lineman Jovan Gwynn of Charlotte plans to be at NC State Saturday. Ben Lippen linebacker Kyle Wright decommitted from Temple today. He said he's been drawing interest from more teams, and he wants to take some other officials. Didn't think it was right to stay committed. Temple does remain on his list. He mentioned schools from the Pac-12, ACC, and Big Ten are involved. USC offered a 2021 running back B.J. Harris of Chattanooga, and Clemson offered 2019 defensive end Kevin Harris of Loganville, Georgia. Defensive end Dorian Gerald of Florence and the College of the Canyons Junior College in California continues to hang in with Tennessee from a commitment standpoint, but he is taking more visits. USC November 17th, Tennessee November 24th, Louisville December 8th, and now he's added an official to Texas A&M on a date to be determined. He also plans a 5th official visit. Heard earlier in the week from USC defensive line coach Lance Thompson regarding the upcoming official visit. As for Tennessee, he just wants some clarity. He's confused, doesn't know anything, continues to talk to their coaches, said if something happens to Butch Jones and that staff, then something is probably going to change with his commitment. But if Jones is there, he's probably going to stick with it. His whole family will join him on his official to USC, something they've not been able to do in earlier visits. He's having a heck of a year in 7 games, 34 tackles, 8 sacks, 14.5 tackles for loss. And defensive end K.J. Henry of Clemens, North Carolina, now has 3 officials in the books as he heads towards a December 20th announcement. He's been to Clemson, Georgia, Virginia Tech. He's got USC next weekend, and then Alabama will be the last stop. Date has not been set. Loved his visit to Clemson. He said they rolled out the red carpet. He's been there a lot, so he pretty much knows everything about Clemson. He met up with Xavier Thomas. And one thing that's important to him, going to a place that's bringing in quality players, big-time players, and, of course, he sees that at Clemson in particular. He's also friends with Trevor Lawrence, and that impresses him, too, that Lawrence is going to Clemson. As for USC, Will Muschamp, of course, has made Henry a personal target. He's looking forward to his trip to Columbia. Says it's very similar in a lot of ways to Clemson. The fact that they're genuine, he put it, and great to his family, so he's looking for that consistency. At the same time, he said he feels that USC's need for defensive linemen is a little bit more than at Clemson, and so that's something that kind of caught his attention. So after the officials, and he'll have in-home visits with the coaches, he and the family will sit down one night, go over the pros and the cons, and make a decision. And then he'll announce it on December 20th. He is applying to all 5 schools because he's an early graduate, so he wants all his paperwork in at every school so that when he makes his decision, he'll be ready to go. He'll play the Shrine Bowl in December and also in the Under Armour All-American game. There you go. Corn working hard in recruiting on a Friday. It really goes against my grain, but I did that anyway. And I do it why? I do it for you. Do I do it for money? No. I do it for nothing. I do it for you.
How'd you feel about Justin Verlander skipping out on the Astros victory parade to go get married in Italy this weekend?
So, he couldn't wait? Couldn't wait another weekend?
Apparently
he marrying that hot? Who's he marrying? That hot babe? That blonde? What's her name?
Kate Upton.
Yeah, she's probably go ahead and get that locked down.
I would, if I had a choice of sitting on a back of a float or a truck driving through Houston or getting married in Italy to Kate Upton, I would take Kate Upton married in Italy 10 times out of 100 and twice on Sunday.
All right, very quickly, this weekend.
100 times out of 100, sorry.
This weekend, South Carolina will score 21.
Okay.
And Georgia will score
40.
No. Georgia will score 30. 30-21.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a little
30-21.
30-21. Clemson will score 35. NC State will score 17.
Literally is exactly what
Georgia
I had on
38.
mine.
No, it wasn't.
It exactly is.
Wow. Georgia 38-17. Clemson wins.
I take your word.
28-24.
Oh, I said 31. I said 31, not 35. So 31-17 is what I had.
Hey, don't forget the scoreboards tonight at 10, 10:30, and 11. It's playoff time, so make sure that you tune in for that. Will be at Georgia. Follow him on Twitter and on our website. I'll be at NC State. Follow me.
Don't meet any NC State troopers.
I hope not to. Have a great weekend.